let me ask you then, Mike's comment, it's your problem but it's also your responsibility. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's your responsibility to get the help. I think it's even more so, it's your responsibility to recognise that you're struggling and recognise that you need the help. I think that's where a lot of us, I know as blokes in general, like when you get ill, we don't just go to the doctors, do we? You're like, no, I'll be fine, I'll have a paracetamol.
I mean, yeah, I do
it. You don't ever get the help you need, you just sort of go, oh no, I'm fine. It's just a couple, like you get an injury, you're like, no, it's fine. Like we train for injuries all the time.
It's like me with recently with Vanessa's been like, you need to go to the doctors, you might have diabetes. And I'm like, oh, that'll be alright.
Yeah, exactly. And that comment there is exactly why we're doing the podcast, is because you're not 100% sure on that. You need to go to the doctors and check that. And I think it's the same thing with, I'm not saying you have to go straight to therapy. There are definitely stages in between that, like that leads to big help.
Do you know, I sat in bed the other night and I googled therapists in Bedfordshire because I thought to myself, like, I know you go and you've recommended it to me. Like, I actually sat there and I was like, do you know what? It wouldn't hurt.
No.
There's no bad is going to come from it.
No, you lose nothing. You lose nothing from it.
50 quid, but
the thing is, you would spend 50 quid on a takeaway.
Oh yeah,
you would spend 50. Like,
we would bang 50.
You can tell by the video we eat big. If we went to Domino's right now, we would easily spend.
Yeah, we got a little tandoori or something. It
easily spend 50 quid. So, like my therapist, bless her, she does me 45 quid a week.
Yeah.
And I think that's really fair, and I will happily spend that for as long as I need it, because it is so helpful. But if anyone does want to go to therapy, please DM the Muscle Pig Instagram page, because I can give you links.
Yeah, I might
have
a conversation with a therapist. I might actually have a look. Yeah. I only want like one session just to go.
100%.
Just to sit there and.
There's no, you don't go there and it's like it's a contract where they say no, you're in now and you're here for 6 months. Like you can go and it's, for me, the most important thing about therapy is finding the right person to talk to.
But
not just with therapy, but even like us. It's finding the right friends or family member or colleague to speak to.
Look, don't get me wrong. I don't feel like I'm not suicidal. I don't feel like I've got anything wrong. I've got no need to be upset. Like, I've got a great life in a minute. I've got the dogs, the missus, work's good, got good mates, all of this going on. So I don't feel like I need to talk to anyone. But I just thought to myself, when laying in bed, I was just like, it wouldn't hurt.
No,
it wouldn't hurt to actually just go and have a sit down and
the way I described
explain my life to someone and see what they think.
Yeah, so the way I described it was, it's like, imagine like a big water tower, and over the years of every call you've been to, slowly just starts to fill up.
Yeah.
And you could probably go, I mean, we've both gone, like we've got 12 years frontline, and it tops up and it tops up and it tops up. Yeah. And for me, it got to the point where it got so full that it just took one big incident that I'll talk about one day that just completely overflowed. Yeah. And then I think what we need to do here is tell people not to let it get to the point where it's overflowing. Yeah. So you might say, like they say, like life's great right now, but you don't know your water tower could be 3/4 full.
I think this is the problem. You never know where your water tower is. Yeah. You never know how full that water tower is. It could be empty. Yeah. I feel like it's empty, but it's just like with you, one job. You can be like, shit, my water tower's full and it's about to go.
But it comes back to what Mike said in his comment. It's your responsibility to recognise it. Look inside yourself, do a bit of soul searching and think. And there are signs and symptoms of it. Like when I was watching, it sounds really, I'll admit it in front of the thousands of people that follow us, but like, I watched Britain's Got Talent.
Thousands.
In fact, the millions and millions. But I was watching Britain's Got Talent.
What's wrong with
and
that?
I would find myself getting emotional at like.
I do all the time.
Yeah, but like
when that golden buzzer goes, I'm like, oh, they've done it.
Every act I was getting upset. But like, it'd be like, but then it got to the stage where I would be watching films, I would cry through a whole film, adverts. Like, I was getting emotional over a lot of things.
When was the last time you cried? Properly cried? I
watched Britain's Got Talent just gone and had a little tear for a couple of the acts on there.
No, I mean like when you're watching the film, like, I watch bloody TikToks and I'll be like, okay, that's it. Like, I watch these, I can't remember the pages on TikTok. There might even be Instagram to be fair, but there's like a page where like soldiers come home. And I always get tearful of that.
I love watching the videos going back to dogs, where the dogs recognise coming back and they've been gone in the military for years and the dogs just go absolutely
that finishes me.
I mean, like when was the last time you sat down on your own and just went, fuck, I needed that, and like had a proper cry?
See, I struggle to cry. Not trying to be macho. if it happens, if I have a reaction to a video or like an argument or something, if there's a powerful emotion involved, then I think the crying's easy.
Yeah.
If I just sat and just reflected, the last time I properly cried was driving to the gym the day after I'd gone to an attempted murder and an attempted suicide.
Yeah.
That's a job I'll talk about one day. It's a big job. But the next day, I was driving to the gym and I just felt empty, like hollow. And I remember ringing the missus and she answered the phone and I just burst out crying on the phone and I couldn't speak and I couldn't control myself and I was just sobbing down the phone. That's probably the only time I've ever had it where there's been no emotional reaction involved, watching a
sort of
TV show. Yeah, that's what it is.
To be honest, I struggle to think of a time. I'm not really a crier. And
I know you stubbed your toe or...
Was it when Man United lost?
Emotional.
Even just the game at the weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Against Coventry, right?
Tears of joy.
So it's before kick-off was at 3:30 when it went to extra time and pens in the end.
Yeah.
I've got to be at work at 8 o'clock, so I sort of normally would leave around sort of 6. So this is edging into my time now. Coventry scored, it's 4-3. At this point, I'm sitting in the car. I've turned off and I think I'm going to work now.
Yeah.
I get in my phone, put my phone in my little charging holder, it comes up, goal disallowed. I click the phone and go back in. Go back in.
That's it.
But on a serious note, in terms of crying, I think I can only really think of like maybe twice in like my whole adult life that I think that I've probably cried.
And there's the tears of sadness you're talking about, because I cried when Jackson was born.
Yeah.
And fatherly stuff.
Yeah.
But
no, I don't really get
tears of sadness.
I don't really tear up in terms of that thing. The two would be it's both sad occasions. One was when obviously I mentioned him earlier, when Rodney got put down.
Oh, bless him.
And that was obviously unexpected. They found a correction.
It was lovely dog.
And obviously he had to get put down. So that was quite sad. And the other one's not really a podcast story.
Fair enough.
At the moment, but
yeah.
And they're probably the only two that I can really think of, and that's I don't know why that is, to be honest. I think in this podcast, just doing it, even just talking to you boys about these scenarios and the stigma behind mental health and what is like mental strength and stuff.
Yeah.
There's maybe so much more open to what it should be, and that these things could happen to me, and rather than being like, oh no, I'm mentally strong, they can't.
Yeah.
Which I think before this, I was way too shut off from that kind of thing. Almost to the point of when it comes to things at work not bothering me, it's almost like I can just turn my humanity off.
Yeah.
And I can just be like, this isn't bothering me. We had on nights last tour actually, we had a double fatal.
Yeah.
And we go and we found the crews that I was with were the ones that then found the bodies in situ in the fire, and then but you don't. But I don't even see it. So it's almost like I can just I can turn it off.
You do need that.
Yeah.
Because we have that in the police.
Yeah.
Like I have that where I've gone to jobs that should be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But because you're in professional, you can't get to this. You can't go to the fire, find two dead bodies, and just burst out sobbing.
No.
Because you've got family or another colleague. It's difficult. That's probably the hardest bit about being on the front line, is having to go to these calls that if you told somebody else it wasn't in the job, they'd burst out crying.
Yeah.
But we have to get there and we have to stay professional, rightly so,
and
deal with the call professionally. And by the time it then comes to actually processing what you've been to, it feels weird to cry.
Yeah, you spoke about that.
Because it's post, isn't it?
Yeah,
so you haven't got the same feelings there.
I've been to some horrendous stuff, and then you get back to the police station, you can't really cry there because, again, it's the macho element of you don't want to cry in front of your peers and your colleagues and your supervisors, so you suppress it. And then you go to the locker room and you're getting changed and you're driving home, so you don't really think about it. Then you get home, and like 2-3 hours could have passed, and you think, I can't cry I can't just sit down and cry like that. It's weird. It's weird to cry.
I feel other people's emotions. Like if you were telling me something that happened to you traumatic and you started getting teary up and like, upset about it, I'd feel that emotion and I would start getting teary and upset. But when like I go to a hanging that I went to, like the girls the same age as me, her family are distraught as you would expect. But you just sort of sit there and you're just like.
But you can't cry in front of them.
You've got to stay professional. But you do walk away from it. I did walk away from it thinking, fuck, like,
no, definitely.
That's hard.
But sometimes the family might respect you. I've cried in front of a family once when I went to a sudden death of a baby and was in the hospital and they were holding the baby that passed away, and I was so overcome with emotion and my operator was brilliant and he did the majority of the talking, but when we had to say goodbye, I had to give the family a cuddle, they could see I was crying, but I think they respect.
That makes me emotional.
They probably appreciated it, but they probably appreciated it because it made me look more real, rather than just being thank you, sorry for your loss.
You can't just be.
I was like I'm a dad to myself, and I'm so sorry. But
something like that's going to hit hard, though, isn't it? As well,
yeah.
With a child.
Yeah. When was the last time you cried? On a emotional, not with a reaction like a TV show.
Yesterday, when we sat out here with the dogs eating the chicken nuggets, like I got emotional. And it made me fucking emotional.
No, it's alright, bro. It's good. It's good to talk about it, man. Like, dogs are so important. I don't even want to think about when he's only 2, so we've got a little while. Yeah, no, it's not a shit, mate. It's nothing. There's no shame in crying in front of your friends. It's good.
I know.
He's a big tough guy, so yeah. I think as maybe not as men, but as especially as blokes, we put a lot of shame on crying.
Yeah.
I noticed how you said sorry for crying, like you've done something wrong.
Yeah,
like there's nothing to apologise when you get upset and having a cry. Like we as Brits we do it as well. Like we say sorry for everything. But like we put a lot of shame and a lot of negative emotion on crying. I don't think women do that as much. I think women cry and all their friends come in and hug.
Yeah.
And it's very much embraced as a beautiful sharing moment. Yeah. Whereas as blokes we want to we just push everyone away. It's like I'm crying. I don't think women do that as much.
Sorry.
No, you're right. He speaks the truth. We put a lot of negative emotions on crying. And we put a lot of negative emotion on being vulnerable and being emotional.
It's all the time that you cry, it'll probably be on your own, wouldn't it? The two instances when you asked me when I can last think of, both of them were in private.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have probably felt comfortable to do it in front of someone.
Yeah.
What about probably wouldn't have happened in front of someone.
That's why I stepped out. I couldn't hold that in. I felt like I needed to step out and take a moment.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. We're not trying to say that you have to cry in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Like you can cry on your own. There's no problems with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's about the saying sorry and like putting the shame on it. Like there's no shame in crying. You can be a big 100-kilo monster and you can still cry about emotional stuff. So the stuff we're talking about is real. It's real stuff. It's real calls we've been to. It's real emotion and it's real life. And that's what I think this podcast is all about. Is people we need to see that we're talking real.
Well, that's why it's called Real Talk, isn't it? This one's called Real Talk.
100%. Because I think people would appreciate that more. I know I would.
Yeah.
I think it hits a lot harder having real stories.
We're going to get other people on here to talk about stuff.
Yeah, we need to start planning some guests. But we've got people lined up. But could you cry in front of Millie? Like, would you cry in front of your wife?
No. So we go back to the two stories, the 2 times that I mentioned him. So one of them was in private to do with it was personal to both of us, and I had a little tear in private because I just needed to almost release that, get rid of it, but I felt like I shouldn't be the one that's showing it in front of her because obviously she was emotional at the time. So I'm like, well, one of us has got to be the rock, one of us has got to be the strength, but maybe our relationship would have been maybe even stronger at the time if we were both upset together.
It's funny you say that.
Rather than me just be like, no, I'll deal with it, I'll be the one that helps her, I'll show no weakness.
But it's funny how you say that, like the words you're using, you're saying showing weakness.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's the wrong
crying for your wife. It's not weakness.
Yeah.
And
so that's definitely how I felt at the time.
No, 100%. That's valid to feel like that. But I'm saying to you now, like looking back on it, you're saying I had to be the strong one.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the strong one is the man that cries with his wife.
Do you feel like, be honest, do you feel like you could cry in front of Millie now? Like if
I definitely could.
Something happened.
I definitely could. I know that she would never judge me. Wouldn't think differently of me at all.
No.
It's a me thing. Not a her thing at all. You're completely right. She'd probably see that as, you know what, I can connect to Matt even more now because we've got even more shared feelings.
100%.
But I was more like, I'm going to be the one that's going to help us get through this. I'm going to be the rock. Do you know what I mean? And that's how it was, and that's how I felt.
That's the
had
stigma
to be shown by not crying in private. It was like a tear, and it was just literally the case of I sat there. I was with the dogs actually.
Yeah.
It was just that we only had Albert at the time.
Yeah.
I was with him. Literally, there was a couple of tears to come down, and then I was like, "That's it. That's all I needed." Just to be like, have that release of.
Yeah, but I struggle to cry in front of my partner.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I was going to ask.
I don't know what it is. No. If anything, that's what made me clam up. Like I'd get home, And I'm the same as you. Like I'm not sitting here judging, like sort of like having a go at you for what I was the same.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I see it. I see it in all three of us. I got home and was like, I'm like the man of the house now. I'm back. Like this is I can't be seen to be crying now.
I mean, that was going to be another question I asked. I know I was going to name them, but your boy's younger.
Yeah.
And obviously yours is a little bit older.
Yeah, he's
still young.
Yeah.
Would you feel comfortable enough to cry in front of them?
Yeah.
We've had this conversation before.
Yeah, I think it's important.
My old man crying.
Yeah.
Like, would you feel comfortable to have that emotional moment with your boys?
I think it depends on the scenario because I won't talk about jobs that I've been to in front of him. So that if I would probably. It's hard to try and sort of separate the two because I would want to cry to show him that it's okay and it's good to cry, but I wouldn't then be able to tell him why I was crying.
Yeah, I get that.
Like other than saying I went to a bad job, which I've done before, and he knows.
Like with me, like going with my missus, she moaned at me this morning because I didn't tell her about yesterday. She had no idea about yesterday. And then
why didn't you tell her?
It wasn't like. I told you because you were moaning at me for eating nuggets.
I felt so shit.
What, and he's not sharing them? I ain't got 5 spare for
20 nuggets?
Yeah, I was like 25th April, bro. And he was like, what do you mean it's 25th? And I was like, 6 years since Alfie died. He was like, so you
I felt, once I knew, obviously, I was like really respectful of your traditions. I love the tradition, but at the time I was thinking, what about your macros?
These bastards.
20 nuggets,
no, so I don't know.
I thought he made it up at first. I was like, this is the reason.
Is this an excuse for 20 nuggets?
That's dark.
You went to take the 25th. I was like, what is that nugget day? I was like,
there's a.
Shout out to that.
I'll put it on the
end. We'll put it on a post.
She shared a moment with me, but I just sort of said to her, I was like, it's not a big deal. It's no one else's problem. It's not a big deal. Like it's something for me. It's something for my way of remembering him. But there was also like obviously we had our colleague Matt Stabs, and I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't there. I know him from previously being on team with him, and I'm good friends with him when we speak outside of work about cars and stuff.
Was this the guy recently?
Shout out to Matt as well. He's in hospital doing well.
He's out of hospital.
He's out of hospital. Good lad,
he's back home recovering.
He's making a full recovery, so good lad.
But we were having a bit of backwards and forwards one morning, and not like arguing or anything, just a bit backwards and forwards. And she obviously works on the other side of the building to me, so I went around to see her, and I gave her a hug, and I just had a cry. I didn't show her where I was crying. She could tell. I held it in, but I had tears coming out of my eyes. And I just held her and I squeezed a little bit tighter than I normally would. And then I got up and turned around and went, right, I've got to go back to work. And I turned around, wiped the tears away and just went back. Yeah. And she texted me and she was like, it's okay to cry in front of me. And I was thinking to myself, like, I know it is, but I still can't.
You also at a place of work. It's very hard.
I
think that makes it harder as you're in a place of work, you're in an office environment. It's difficult to separate the work from the person.
I also know if I walk past the wellbeing team, they'd be perfect for me.
100%.
If I walk past Socko, we've got I can never remember her name, but she calls herself Crazy Socko. So if I walk past them, like Crazy Socko would come and give me a hug. She'd just jump up out of her seat and come and give me a hug. The lads would come and like, is everything alright? If I walk round to our side crying, you'd all take the piss out of me, but on the backside of that, it'd be like...
I don't think we take the piss out of you.
In a nice, friendly way, but it would be like, right, now seriously, what's wrong? What's going on?
Once we know what's actually happening.
And then you take the piss out of me again.
Yeah. The good thing is that we're talking about it, like, we bang on about time to talk, is at least the fact that all three of us are happily talking about
this. Is it, because I didn't want to contradict it, or like, I can't think of what the saying is, but it's like, I'm sitting here trying to preach about, well, maybe not preach, but tell people to talk. It's time to talk. Blokes need to come and talk. It's okay to cry. It's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. But then I can't sit in the background and go, well, I've cried, but I didn't want to show anyone I was crying.
But we're on the journey. We're on the journey with them, with the followers. I know I've known Matt for like a long time, and I know that you're not the most openly emotional bloke, and that's not bad. That's
timekeeping as well.
That's not a bad thing. Like everyone knows I'm a lot more emotional than others, but like we're all on a journey to talk about it.
There's people at work that I could think of a handful of people at work that I know would come up to you and be like, "How is things? Is everything alright?" But to everyone else, I think if they walk past you, the first thought is, "Fucking hell, he's big," and then it would be I bet he don't get emotional about anything. Like if someone's having a bad day and they walk past you thinking I'm having a shit time, I've had a terrible call, and they'd look at you and go, "You don't look like he's got a problem."
Sorry,
I know
ones,
you,
yeah.
like we know you.
Yeah.
You would sit that person down and be like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, 100%.
Like why so emotional? What's
Yeah,
happening?
it's definitely important to
Like-
talk the talk and walk the walk. And
Yeah,
try.
I mean, we've had messages from people in the gym
That's lovely messages, yeah.
saying how they've felt and experiences they've had and how they currently feel the way they do.
Yeah,
And it's we go up to them in the gym now and we're
It's a
like,
positive message, man.
Yeah,
like,
we're
the
like-
fact that it's resonating with people already.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
like a
We've
few-
had some
few episodes in.
lovely messages.
That's
Yeah.
great.
yeah, we've had
That's
old,
right,
old
yeah.
Bill, a couple of like Paul's spoken
We've
to
had some really
us.
good people. Have you had any fight? Anyone from the fight your sides? Like,
So I spoke to a couple of guys that at work that have watched the content basically for feedback of like, what do you think?
Yeah,
Do you think that we're covering good stuff? And there's people that think we're the fact of like the type of guys that we are, the stereotype of we're in a position of like physical strength,
yeah.
and that should in like society that is meant to mirror like
Yeah.
mental strength as
100%.
well. The fact that we're in a position and the jobs that we're in, the fact that we can admit to being vulnerable or try to be more vulnerable
Yeah,
and sharing our feelings is big, and we're on the right path to hopefully
I think so.
sort of
Yeah, I think so.
making a bit of a difference. And I think similar to where you were going with that, Ali, saying you feel like you need to walk the walk and talk the talk at the same time. I'm guilty of that, and I think that puts us in a position of strength. That you've got someone that's more maybe in like Jeff's position, where he's more aware emotionally. Like you've always wore your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah.
You've used therapy as a tool, and then you've got maybe me and you that haven't. We your stereotypical blokes that we're talking to, like
Oh, yeah,
so we can
absolutely.
we can talk to them better because we know all the tricks.
Yeah.
I know all the tricks where people can just pretend they're not sad or whatever, because we might have been there, or we might have just ignored it, like I said, shut down and just like turn their humanity off and just live through life like dead behind the eyes. Do you know what I mean?
That's exactly what goes back to what you were saying. Like you can do it at work, you have to be able to shut it up.
Yeah.
You can't. You can be emotional at work, but you can't be overly emotional. At every call you go to, you can't be breaking down because
No.
you have a job to do.
Yeah.
It's being able to separate fireman Matt, or firefighter Matt, sorry,
Yeah.
to
Hang on a minute. Can I just remove myself from the I'll get me in trouble with the police. I'll get me in trouble. Firefighter Sam.
firefighter Matt.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to separate firefighter Matt from from dad Matt and husband Matt.
Yeah.
Gym Matt. Like it's definitely a skill. It takes years to do it. Like you say about me being, I'm quite good at talking about it now, but it took me 12 years.
Yeah.
It took me 15 years if you had the previous job. Like 15 years of working for. It took me 15 years before I could actually then go to get the courage to go to speak to somebody. And that didn't come quickly for me. I did exactly the same as you boys. I hid it.
I've always been a soppy bastard, but I've never spoken to anyone about it. Like, maybe an ex here and there. I've had like this is what's going on, but I've never openly sat down. Like, even my parents, I won't openly sit down and talk to them about it.
No.
And they're probably the best people to speak to.
100%.
They're both in their 60s. They've got 120 years of life experience between them. Like, my dad's been through shit. My mum's probably been through stuff, but arguably my mum is stronger than I am. So,
that makes it even bigger than the fact that you were sitting the other day, even considering contacting a therapist.
Just
or
if you're not
recommendations.
for you,
Do you know what I mean?
good
That's
for you.
a big step, then, mate. So.
And that ties in perfectly at the end of this, is that back to Mike's statement.
Yeah.
It is our responsibility as dads, firefighters, police, men, brothers, whatever, like sons, it's our responsibility to recognise and take action. If you, like we said, if you pulled a muscle in the gym, or you broke a bone, or you'd go to the doctors, you'd get paracetamol or ibuprofen, you'd get help, medication, whatever. It's our responsibility to recognise that something's not quite right upstairs and I need to reach out. So yeah, Mike's statement's spot on.
Right, love boys.
Top boy.
Decent.